we have the potential to go further and faster in places like London. And I think it's because there is an interest and commitment to taking forward the digital agenda in London, which is manifested in the creation of the Health London Partnership, which is a collaboration between all 32 CCGs and NHS England in London. And in the digital space, why do we need it? Well, because there's when we started this journey, which was before the NIB and all these other things, we recognised there were some problems we just simply couldn't fix at a local level, and we needed to work together on. Digital being one of them. So questions like, how do you connect the patient once? How do you find out where all the records are? How do you make them available to everybody? How do you solve the problem of the fact that there are at least 7,000 organisations in London who might want to connect to each other, and if you leave them to it, they will try and do it point to point, and you'll end up with spaghetti, and it will cost you a fortune, and it won't work. Basically, we've got 30 odd information exchanges in London already, and none of them talk to each other, and none of them talk to the patient. So I think the context of trying to do it once for London, everybody gets. And I think that's really good. In terms of the process we've been through with colleagues at PRSB, we sponsored the development of standard. We had happy coincidence in that PRSB were unable to get the money they needed to build some standards, so we volunteered to provide it. 32 CCGs coughed up some money to say, please will you build us a standard for an end-of-life care plan and a crisis care extract, which can be used nationally. So we don't just want to use it in London, and that's what we've been doing. And I think the key point was that by sponsoring it, we were able to contextualise what we were going to use it for. So it wasn't just a sterile conversation about this data, viewing data. It was about, here's the problem statement we're trying to fix. And I think that conversation has been really effective, and the standards are now going through the process. They're not quite approved, but we're expecting them to be released imminently, from whence we can then start to implement them. And what we've got across London is a bunch of STP communities who are all waiting patiently for the standard to be available so we can start to implement this at scale across the capital. What can we learn from this? I think it's quite interesting. So we produced the draft standard, and it's out there for consultation, and yet we're still finding people around the country who don't know about it, or who didn't contribute, or saying, well, we've already done that, why don't you use ours, sort of thing. I don't think it matters, because this is a journey. You don't start off with the perfect answer. You create a standard and you work with it and you evolve it, etc. I think the key point is to build the standard with a problem statement in mind, at least one. I would also draw attention to the fact that it's a pattern that is replicable for other standards. So, for example, we've started a journey about creating a content standard for an end-of-life care plan, but that is then extensible to cover other contexts. So you're not trying to repeat it and create a different care plan, you're just extending the data sets around different contexts. So eventually you create a single virtual care plan for all contexts, which is a searchable care plan, actually. So all the data in those virtual documents are searchable as a virtual EHR that everybody can use to do all sorts of other things. We think we will make a huge difference to inappropriate referrals to hospital and A&E attendances, and more importantly, we will help to ensure that patients' preferences are recognised and known to all of those people in the system who need to know it. It will save money, because instead of having the spaghetti diagram that we've created, I referred to earlier on, we'll have an elegant solution through a hub. So everybody will connect once. And that's it. Thank you very much.